Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a special Major League Baseball postseason edition of Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, the Major League Baseball playoffs began last night. A little late getting this up, but obviously series aren't over yet, so my picks could still come true. Maybe not. Obviously, we had the Baltimore-Detroit game last night. We had Kansas City and Oakland. Those two series, as a Kansas City Royals fan, I'm kind of looking really close to both of those series because obviously the winner of those two games, the two series, will face off in the ALCS and the winner goes on to the World Series. We have the Cardinals and the Dodgers begin tonight, Adam Wainwright, 20-game winner versus 21-game winner, Clayton Kershaw. That's going to be a pitchy matchup, so it'll probably be one of those like 9-8 type games. I mean, come on. When you got two guys as good as Wainwright and Kershaw on the mound, what do you expect? A 1-0 game, dual no-hitters, and it's going to be just crazy trying to get runs in LA tonight. Alright, first off, I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the Royals. As a Royals fan since the 80s, it's awesome. 28 years not being in the playoffs, and here they are back in the playoffs. Every year it's always like, hopefully this is the year, hopefully this is the year. There's been a lot of low points for the Royals and for Royals fans. Obviously a couple years ago losing 106 games, I believe it was, franchise record, losing 100 games multiple times. A couple years ago they were, they were in the hunt for a little. Even last year, they were leading the division after the All-Star break, and a couple of years ago they were leading the division into August. So I mean, there's been some of that little hope, and then it goes crashing down. Finally, they moved beyond that. They traded some young guys for James Shield, Big Game James they call him, which I have yet to figure that one out. He's never pitched in that many big games. And then Wade Davis has been lights out in the bullpen. Couple similarities between the 85 team and this current team. There are actually 14 players with the same uniform numbers on their roster today that was on their roster in 1985. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just a couple notable ones. Jeremy Guthrie, number 11 in 85. Number 11 was Hal McRae. Number 24 in 1985 was Darryl Motley, who got the last out of the Game 7 to win the World Series, and now it's Christian Colon, middle infielder. There are two very interesting ones to me. Escobar, the shortstop. How you pronounce that first name? Alcides, or whatever, how you pronounce it. Anyway, the shortstop, Escobar, I'm going to tell you, is number 2. Back in 85, number 2 was Onyx Concepcion, shortstop. Thought that was kind of ironic. Number 6, Lorenzo Cain, center field speedster. And back in 1985, number 6 was center field speedster Willie Wilson, excuse me. Cardinals fan too, so Willie McGee, Willie Wilson, they kind of run together once in a while. But just seeing Lorenzo Cain play center field and steal bases kind of, reminded me a lot of the 80s with Willie Wilson and stuff. And back then in the left field, they had Lonnie Smith. Now they got Alex Gordon. They got center field, they had Willie Wilson. Now they got Lorenzo Cain and sometimes Jared Dyson. Right field back then, they had Darryl Motley. Now they got, how do you pronounce it? Noroka Aoki, I think you pronounce the last name. Kind of a speedster. Motley really was more power than speed. Hall of Fame George Brett at third. Now we got Mike Moustakas. Shortstop, like I said, Escobar, Concepcion. Second base, you got Omar Infante now. They had, 8-time Gold Glove winner Frank White. First base, they had Steve Baboni then. Now they got All-Star Gold Glove Award winner Eric Hosmer. Catcher, they had Jim Sundberg and John Watson, and now they got Salvador Perez. DH, they had Hal McRae, and now they got Billy Butler. So, I mean, you look at these two rosters, you see a lot of similar type of guys, speed, power, average guys. Obviously, the Royals have never played in the wildcard playing game until Tuesday night, and they won 9-8 in 12 innings. This is their first time ever playing in the divisional series because they didn't have it back then. They're 1-0. They beat Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in 11 innings. So this team is just a scrappy, small ball, steal base, spun a guy over, scoring a sac fly type of team. They're not sitting back like the Angels do and wait for that 3-run home run by Pujols or Mike Trout or any of these, Josh Hamilton. They just have all these power hitters, and Kansas City doesn't have that. But yet, Kansas City is able to win game one of that series. Kansas City has made the ALCS 6 times, which obviously back when they were in the playoffs all the time, you only had the ALCS. You won your division, 2 divisions, East, West. They faced off, so they made the playoffs 6 times. They are 2-4 in the ALCSs and series-wise. Overall, they're 12-15. 76, 77, 78, they lost to the Yankees. 1980, they won against Baltimore, went on to the World Series. 84, they lost to Detroit. 85, they beat Toronto, which was their last time in the playoffs. 2 World Series appearances in 80 and 85. 80 against the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies won that. 85 against the St. Louis Cardinals. Sorry, Cardinal Nation, but yeah, Kansas City won that. I've been a Royals fan since I was a little kid. I live in Cardinal Nation now. I am a Cardinals fan, but number 1 is the Royals, number 2 is the Braves. Cardinals, you're number 3. When the Braves come to town, the Royals come to town, I'm to cheer for them first. I would love to see another I-70 World Series. I think, being the fact that I was 7 years old the first time, I don't remember a lot about it. I remember a lot about Game 7, most notably, but I moved to St. Louis, Cardinal Country 13 years ago, and talking about the Royals, I get a lot of people, like, well, I'm like, at the time, the Royals had more championships since '85 than the Cardinals did. Obviously, the Cardinals won in '06 and in 2011. I was happy for them both times. I was cheering for them both times. But, I bring up '85 World Series, and everybody talks about that play in Game 6, Don Dinkinger, and I hear people on local radio or on Facebook, Cardinal fans, be like, well, at least now there's replay. Whatever, people, get over it. It was 29 years ago. Come on. Can't you get over it by now? But hopefully, we can have a rematch of that. We kind of neat. If you look at the playoffs right now, like I said, we have Baltimore and Detroit playing. I want to see Detroit win that. And then we got Kansas City and Anaheim. I do want to see Kansas City win that, which has set up the ALCS for Detroit and St. Louis, or Detroit and Kansas City, just like the '84 ALCS was, but at least this time I want Kansas City to win. I know Detroit has won some World Series recently. They won in '84, but I think that young team in Kansas City, it was just, if they're able to beat Anaheim to get to that point. I know Detroit beat up them over the year. This season, Detroit, was just an ungodly record against them. But you know what? They're finding ways to win now. I think they can continue that. To win playoffs these days, you don't have to be a superstar team. You just got to win the majority of your games. That's it. There's 19, 20, if you have to play a game, there's 20 games in the playoffs. You just got to win 12. You can go 12 and 8. 12 and 8 in 20 games, and you can win a World Series. So, National League side, obviously, talked about the Cardinals and the Dodgers. Just the pitching, at least the first game, and maybe Game 5, I think, would be Kershaw and Wainwright again. That's just going to be just beyond sick watching those guys go at it. But the funny thing is, the one team in the last few years that's really gotten to Clayton Kershaw is the Cardinals. Pete Cosmo. He's 4 out of 5 with 3 doubles. I know it's one game he played. Nobody else is really hitting the lick against him. But hey, we'll see what happens, It only takes one game. You got to take a game at a time. The other one is San Francisco and Washington. I do want to see the Nationals win that. I would love to see the Nationals in the World Series since that franchise coming from Montreal, the Montreal Expos. They were kind of similar to the Royals where they'd have some good seasons. Then, as the players got better, they had to get rid of them because they couldn't afford to pay them anymore. And now they get that young nucleus with, Steven Strasburg and Bryce Harper and just a lot of young talent in that team. You would hope they're going to be there from years to come, kind of like Kansas City. If it wasn't for the fact that the Cardinals were in there, I would want Washington to go, but I can see the NLCS being the Washington Nationals and the St. Louis Cardinals, and Cardinals winning that, going on the World Series, I-70 again. But I mean, also, that's what I want to see happen. Obviously, if Baltimore won, Baltimore and Washington was in the World Series, that would be horrible because kind of the whole, Washington D.C. area, Baltimore's right across the river from them. Even worst case scenario like in Anaheim and L.A. I mean, kind of that little series because they're both in L.A. area. I mean, there's all kinds of little regional series like that would make sense. Before Oakland lost in the play-in game, Oakland, San Francisco, another replay of that World Series. So I have the World Series coming down to Kansas City, St. Louis, and obviously as much as I talked about the Royals, I want the Royals to win. For some reason, if the Royals can't win, I want to see the Cardinals win. If for some reason they both get eliminated, I'd like to see Washington or Baltimore be the next choice. Not really a big Tigers fan, been there, done that. I like to see a team that hasn't won in a while be there. Baltimore hasn't won a World Series in a while. Washington has never won a World Series. Anaheim, they have $1 billion payroll. Why the hell would I want to see them win? Now, I mean, obviously Anaheim and St. Louis World Series wouldn't be horrible. Pujols and Freese coming back to St. Louis, and Fernando Salas with Peter Borges, and then Ryan Gerchak, whatever I pronounce his last name. Some of these names are hard to pronounce. Or Oscar Taveras kind of winning the game. Like one of the local radio stations was talking about that. Is have Peter Borges on second and Randall Gerchak, I think he's pronounced his name, hit a home run, or Oscar Taveras, something like that, hit a home run to win the World Series against Pujols and Freese. Actually, one of those type of dream matchup besides Kansas City, I would love to see David Freese come back to St. Louis and hit a home run to win the World Series. Be the World Series MVP against St. Louis because St. Louis just gave up on him. I disagree with that trade when it happened. I like David Freese. He was a local kid, grew up, in the shadows of Busch Stadium, grew up in the St. Charles area, played for his hometown team, and then they kind of treat him dirty and get rid of him. But that's just my opinion on it. Obviously, a lot can happen in baseball. You never know. So that wraps up the preview of the MLB postseason 2014. Once the World Series is over and we have a World Series champion for 2014, I'm going to do a part 2 to this video and talk about who was champion, Kansas City hopefully, and kind of talk a little bit about some numbers and Hall of Famers and soon-to-be Hall of Famers and some things that we'll never see again in Major League Baseball. There's 2 big numbers for pitchers and for hitters that I don't think will ever be reached again in Major League Baseball history. And I will throw a little spoiler out there. Derek Jeter is the last to do it as a hitter. That's all I'm going to say about that. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.